A crescent moon and a single star appears on 8 national flags and is generally linked to symbolise a country's main religion, that being of Islam. But of these 8 flags, 6 of them have 5-pointed stars. Malaysia goes way over the top with 14 points, but Azerbaijan uniquely goes with 8. But why?
Is there more to it than just a simple star and moon symbol going on here? To find out, join me on my journey in Azerbaijan for these flags in 50 places. The Republic of Azerbaijan is a transcontinental country located at the boundary of East Europe and West Asia. It's part of the South Caucasus region and is bordered by the Caspian Sea to the east, Russia's Republic of Dagestan to the north, Georgia to the northeast, Armenia and Turkey to the west, and Iran to the south. And I'm here in Azerbaijan's largest city and capital, Baku. And more specifically, and it would be a failure on my part if I wasn't, I'm standing next to the National Flag Square. Although it's closed at the moment. First off, the current flag is the simple tricolour of blue, red and green with the instantly recognisable moon and star in the centre. And the blue for Azerbaijan's Turkic identity, red is progression and green represents Islam, the majority religion. And what about the National Flag Square that houses this flag? Well, as you can see, it doesn't at the moment because of renovations. Well, the foundations here, however, were laid on the 30th of December 2007 by the then president, but apparently there was some controversy about this land as it was mostly a residential area before this, with some people giving very little notice before forcible evictions. Anyway, moving on. The National Flag Square was opened on the 1st of September 2010 with a big presidential ceremony and the raising of a mighty large national flag. But tragedy struck just the following day as strong winds ripped the flag and it had to be taken down for repairs. At its inauguration, the Guinness Book of Records declared this the tallest flagpole in the world at 162 metres, which housed a 35 metre by 70 metre flag. However, that record didn't last even a year because Tajikistan went one better, but that's another story. If you're wondering, this here is actually the original flagpole that was put up, but it was deemed a little bit too dangerous, so they've decided to erect this massive thing, big chunky flagpole instead, which as you can see is still being worked on, which meant this was probably the wrong time to come and film the Azerbaijan episode. 2 years later, in 2012, the Baku Boulevard behind me was extended to the National Flag Square, which is further in the distance, so that Baku Crystal Hall could house the Eurovision Song Contest, where... Nope, I forget who actually won that one. Anyway, I'll think of it later. Anyway, in 2017, after repeated instances of the flag being ripped, repaired, rehoisted and repeated again, due to the strong winds from the Caspian Sea, plus the scary thought that the flagpole itself could come down and do some considerable damage, I think that's a little bit of an understatement, it was decided to remove the flagpole altogether and probably replace it to what's there at the moment, minus the flag. And then there's a place, a must for every vexillologist, an aptly named Azerbaijan Republic National Flag Museum, which of course I'm obligated to go inside and take a look. The building itself is in the form of an 8-pointed star, as it appears on the flag. As we know, this is today's flag, but where does it originate from? Well, that's a tricky one, because we could go back to the 8th century and use these two lions and, what is that, a silhouetted goat? Which was a flag used by the Miranids family, who were Iranian and ruled over several regions of the Caucasus, while including some of the land that is Azerbaijan today, but not technically the whole country. Then there's this double-headed eagle of the Eldeguzids, a Sunni Muslim Turkic dynasty from the 1100s, who ruled over what was called the Atabegs of Azerbaijan, but again, not quite the country that we know today. That said, if you want to find out all about two-headed eagles, then you can click a link above for another Flags in 50 Places when I travelled to 3-in-1 video of Serbia, Montenegro and Albania to find out why they all have two-headed eagles. Back to the point of the historic Azerbaijan flags. It's not until as late as 1918, when the country gained independence from the Russian Empire and they gave women the vote before the so-called free countries like the UK and the USA, that we start to get a flag that represents what is pretty much today's Azerbaijan, when they use this Ottoman-style flag. Not completely the same as the Ottomans, because we steer back to the star and come back to the issue of design. Why did Azerbaijan's Democratic Republic choose an 8-pointed star over the Ottomans' 5? Were they simply just being greedy? Well, the answer possibly lies with Azerbaijan's population, where it stated that there were 8 branches of the Turkic people. However, there is a problem with this theory in that there are only 7: the Azeris, the Ottomans, the Jagatis, the Tatars, the Kipchaks, the Seljuks and the Turkomans. Now we can potentially be picky here and state that the Kipchaks are in fact 2 groups of people, the Kazakhs and the Kyrgyz, and therefore there would be 8. Sorted. Boom. But the classifications of Turkic people today is different to that of pre-Soviet days of the 1918, so there is another theory, however, in that the 8 points relates to the 8 letters of the word Azerbaijan. Oh, I see. That's in Arabic, Azerbaijan. And now that's all cleared up, what about the moon? Well, that is simply symbolic of the Islamic faith throughout the country. Once this new design in 1918 was hoisted for the first time, it sadly only lasted 2 years before the Red Army invaded the country and assimilated Azerbaijan into the Soviet Union. The country was renamed the Azerbaijan Socialist Soviet Republic, or SSR for short, before amalgamating the country with the Georgia and Armenia to form the mighty Transcaucasian Socialist Federative Soviet Republic, or TSFR for short, because TSFR rolls off the tongue easily, which had this flag. No, not that sort of trans flag. This was based on the Soviet design with the hammer and sickle in a 5-pointed star and the initials in Cyrillic text. Always loved the word Cyrillic. This lasted until 1936, with the dissolving of the Transcaucasian SVSR, and Azerbaijan returned to its own SSR title and proceeded to have these dull flags until 1952, when this last exciting version arrived to help differentiate Azerbaijan from all other countries of the USSR. Fast forward to the 1990s and the fall of the Soviet Union, Azerbaijan regained its independence on the 5th of February 1991, readopted this flag, which is referred to simply as the tricolour flag locally. Now, what about these specific shades of colour? One thing you'll notice about this flag is that all 3 colours are not standard shades. The green is different to, say, the flags of Saudi Arabia or Bulgaria. The red is marginally different to that of France or Canada. And as for the blue, well, that is the most obvious one when matched with other national flags with blue. So why this blue? Well, it stems back to the late 14th century BCE, when in the Turkic language connected the 4 cardinal points, or the compass directions, with colours. Each colour had a symbolic meaning: black for north, blue for east, red for south and white or yellow for west. It's not certain where these colours linking directions came from, but it may have had a Chinese link here. However, this blue stems from the Turkic tribes that lived to the east and has evolved ever since, which probably explains why an old Ottoman flag was blue and another was red for the south. Want to learn more about this? Well, click on one of the links in the description below. Out of interest, the word blue, or east in ancient Turkic, is kok, spelled differently of course. I'll let you decide how you can remember that one going forward. And talking of decisions, Parliament established a law in 2009 making the 9th of November Azerbaijan's Flag Day, to coincide with the original adoption date of this flag back in 1918 of the same date. Azerbaijan is full of little gems like this little place, which is called Candy Mountain. Can't think why. Anyway, it's got nothing to do with flags. But this isn't the end of the story of the flag. You see, in 2013, while the meaning of the colours remained unchanged, the shades were ever so slightly amended and then ratified 5 years later in 2018 to these new, somewhat slightly striking shades, and was intended to provide a more precise specification for the colours used. I mean, it's just a variation of a theme, to be fair, a bit like with the changeover of France in 2019 when... But if you're interested, you can see more about that actually in the link above. What do you think of the current version? Do you prefer it to the old one? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And let's not overlook this symbol, the Azerbaijan coat of arms, or national emblem. This was approved on the 19th of January 1993 and is a mixture of both traditional and modern symbols, with the 8-pointed stars making a comeback, encircled by the national colours of of blue, red and green. The flame is the clever piece of all of this emblem in that it makes up the word Allah in Arabic text, hidden in plain sight for all to see. The flame also represents the Muslim population, as well as the country's eternal natural oil and gas reserves. The word eternal is not my words. Not sure how oil and gas can be eternal, but you get the idea. Below this are the crossed stalks of the yellow wheat and the green oak branches. Wheat because there's a lot of it in the country, and the oak symbolising power and youth. I wonder if there's an oak tree round here that I can rub up against. A point to note, rubbing yourself up against an oak tree in this country is apparently frowned upon and doesn't bring you power or youth, in case you were thinking of trying it. There are many other flags that houses a crescent moon and star, one being Turkey or Turkey, which is strongly based on the old Ottoman flag. But where does the central symbols really come from? Well, you'll be pleased to know that you need look no further than this next video, which will give you the full lowdown. Oh, and it was Loreen from Sweden that won the Eurovision Song Contest here in 2012 with the song Euphoria. So you can sleep well tonight. Bon voyage.